session. Okay, welcome all. So this is our 61st edition of BC Open Discussion, and we are still continuing on what's new in 2021 release wave 2. So, okay, let's move ahead. If you are here for the first time and you don't want to register every week, then drop your name and email in the chat. Otherwise, this page gets updated normally after this meeting with the next meeting invitations and all. So you can register every week otherwise. Okay. So what happened last week was summit completed this weekend. Steve was there, other MVPs were there. I also presented virtually. There were 16 or 14 people who attended the session. But that was a wrap last week, and what's coming up is important. So the Business Central 19 or 2021 release wave 2 launch event is starting on October 18th, Monday, the coming Monday. There's no process of registration, pre-registration per se. Starting this time on Monday, which is 8 a.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. Central, you can just go and watch the event, or at the same time the registration will also open, which you would have already done. Then you don't have to do it, I guess. But this is the link, aka.ms/bcle. If you try to access this link right now, it'll show you what sessions will be happening after this date. So keep an eye on it. I had great, kind of unexplored features or undisclosed features which were not available on Microsoft website also were talked about in the last launch event. So these are super cool events. Let's have a look starting this Monday, what's behind the scene in the product. Okay. So what we'll talk about today is specifically about service and platform. There are 4 or 5 changes, which are super interesting. So I thought let's talk about them. And then in the next meeting, if somebody want to discuss something, then just drop me an email, or I'll just pick whatever we haven't discussed till now. So there is one change which is around OData callers can specify read-only intent in the GET request, which is specifically around APIs, more or less. So think of a situation where you just need to read the data from Business Central as an external entity, and you're not going to do a patch or a modify, more or less, or insert into Business Central using API. In those situations, it's first safe enough to decide to define it as a read-only, or the other benefit that Microsoft article says that if you define the intent as read-only, then the speed of reading will be faster, because then API doesn't have to worry about maintaining the consistency of data, because it may be read, write, or modify. So let's see what that means. As you would have thought about it, there are 2 intent. One is you can do a read write, or you can do a read only. Now, before this version of Business Central 19, you can define the intent, what type of API request it will be, either on the API page design or inside the Business Central database. The page design always takes the priority. So if a page is API page is designed to be read only, then it will be read only. Nobody can use it for writing or modifying the records. Starting this version, Microsoft have also made it possible to define it while you're calling your API. That right now, this call that I'm making is just for read only. So the processing speed of that call will surely increase, because system doesn't have to worry about other kind of changes that you can make. And this is what Microsoft article says about it. This will offload the read-only queries from the primary database and give a more read capacity for integration that read large amount of data. So if you know that, let's say you're planning to create a sales order which needs 3 items and a customer. Now in this case, you first will have to fetch the customer info, and I'll mute somebody, there is noise. So while you're trying to create the sales order, you will need to fetch a customer record, and you'll also have to fetch item records to be used them into the sales order. But while you're trying to fetch the customer and the items, those are just the read request. You don't have to call a normal request, and that you can do by specifying the request header in your call. So because let's think about the scenario. When Microsoft created the customer API page, they can't limit the intent only to be read only, because you might be creating new customers using that API, or you might be patching some customer or modifying some customer using that API call. But when you are creating a document where you know that I have to fetch the customer info, then you are just doing a read for that from that customer API, and that you can do from the request header. So let's first quickly see, and I guess I should have a demo for this. Let me see where that is. I can find it here. Okay. So here is the demo, more or less. So by default, Microsoft have a location API, and I just created a copy of it and specified the data access intent to be read only. Now, as soon as you do the read only, you need to set some of the settings, which is, I guess, editable and API publisher and group are normal. As soon as you define the data access intent to be read only, the page need to be editable false. That's the minimum, the API page. So this is kind of minimum requirement to have the API to be editable false when you do the data intent as read only. The second setting that I said, that if a API does not have a data access intent defined, then what you can do is you can go to your Business Central environment, and all these were available before this version also, and search for data intent, database access intent list. And then let me filter it by object name. Yeah, I think I should find something. Okay. Here are some API pages that are available in the application. As you can see, for each API, there is an access intent. Default mean whatever is defined by the developer or by the Microsoft. It is a Microsoft API. And then you can decide, is it read only or allow write? Now, the default will take whatever is defined in the page design. If it is designed to be read and write, then you can still limit it to be read only. If you define it here as read only, then whenever the call will be made, it will take the priority from here. So the first priority becomes from the design of that page. So like this page will always be read only, even if I change it, that property here, to be allow write. So the first level of priority comes from the designer, whatever has been designed. The second level of priority comes from here, before Business Central 19. With Business Central 19, the second priority has changed to be what is defined on the call of while you're requesting that header. So let's see what that means. Okay, where is that? Okay, here it is. Let's create a page, or sorry, a sample.htpp. And I should have commands somewhere. Let me pull them in directly if I can. Okay. So I'm pretty sure everybody have seen this. So I'll just go ahead and paste them. This is just to get list of all APIs or all companies in this case. And let's also get the list of APIs so that we can see all the APIs which are available. This is all these values. Soft. Now let's try to use the Microsoft location one, location API, which is something like this. This will get me all the locations based on the standard location page. So if I send a request on this, this is giving me all the locations which are being created. Now, as I said, I have created this custom API, which is already published. Let's try to get that also. Now, when you do a custom API, you need to specify the group from here, API publisher and API group from here in your request. So this is the publisher and this is the group, and then rest of the query remains same. So when I do a get, I should return me the same results as it is here. But what if I do a post with this? So let's try to do that post with this. If I try to add a new location, and let me copy these two lines as it is. If I try to do a post with the URL, and then at the end, I need to specify the header here. And then as then normally what I'll do is I'll have the authorization and the content type as application/JSON, and then let's hit the fields there. Let me get it so that I can see the field. Okay. Let's say the code is India West, and then the display name is India West. Now remember this one, the API that I'm currently consuming, which is the custom location API, which is this, is actually a read-only intent. So when I should try to post with this should end up with an error message. And here it says entity does not support, which is the bad request in this case. And if I try to use this API for the same query, the same post command, it should create the India West location, which is it's got created here. Now, when you are trying to get the locations that you are getting, let's say from here, and if you want to use the second priority right now, you can define the data, and I don't know why, but it doesn't support this at this point as read only. Once you do the data access intent as read only, this is what has changed in the Business Central 19, that you can define that while you're doing the get query, so that your API calls will run a little bit faster than a normal get command. Let's see, did it return the new location or not? India West, it's there. Okay. So now with this, remember these three things, that the priority now is first whatever is defined at the page design, then based on the request header that you are doing while you are sending that request, and third is based on whatever is set on the database intent page in Business Center. Any questions, thoughts on this one? Okay, then. Let's move.
This is
Yeah.
Steve, and actually,
Yes,
I
Steve.
just had a call at Summit where a third-party product, like some SaaS service, does financial analysis, and they are looking to retrieve, as they said, they didn't clarify. They said they wanted every transaction out of Business Central to perform their Business Central analysis. So they are thinking they want to make an API call to BC. So this is one of the features that I recommended that they use in order to ensure read-only access to hit the read-only database. So this is definitely a valuable feature that I plan on using.
Yeah. And anything like this where you have to do a bulk read,
Yep,
it makes a huge difference.
excellent.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move to the next one, in service and platform. And this is my favorite one, which is performance based on the partial record. I'm pretty sure most of you were here when we discussed about partial record. If not, it'll be available on the YouTube channel, and also it has been discussed widely in Dynamics Con. Not by me, but I guess someone else presented about partial record. So if you're not using it, go ahead, use it in your coding. But Microsoft have taken a step forward and start using partial record when you are trying to fetch records on these list pages. So now what happens when you open a list page, instead of doing a select star from the source table of that page and also from the table extension, that's how a page load event is kind of invoked, that everything from the main and the subsidiary tables are being fetched. It'll change it to some selected fields from table and table extension if required. Now, the only fields from table extension will be pulled if they are part of your page. If they are not part of your page, they will be excluded from the query that is being done to SQL Server to fetch that data. So let's quickly see it. If that's, I'd be super interested in seeing this. So what I've done already is I've created a customer page. This is called as SDS customer list. We just have 3 fields: number, name, and location code. And then I already have a debugger point here to understand what happens when I try to when the application tries to load this page. So let's publish this, and we will debug at this point and analyze the query in Business Central 19. And if required, and if anybody is interested, we can also run the same extension on Business Central 18 to see what kind of queries are generated when we do it on Business Central 18. Okay, so here it is. Okay. Okay. So let's load the SDH customers. Okay, here it is. As soon as I do that, the debugger stops here, and let's go into database stats. Normally this should have it. This is 18. Okay. This is SQL 9, and we have talked about it in the past. If you can't read everything from here, in the debug console, you can type that variable name here, fetch the value of that, and this will give you the whole query. And let me copy all, and let's place it in a file. Let's say SQL. It's here, and let's stop this. Okay. So this is the statement that has been made to SQL Server when we try to run that page. So now what it is doing a table 18, which is the source table for customer, timestamp, which is a SQL field, the primary key field, number. And let's see what fields we had. We had number, name, and location. So this is number, name, This is an extra field. This is an extra field. This is an extra field, and then there comes the location. These three seems to be extra field, but okay. Let's continue seeing what else is there. This is the picture field, tax area code, image, and then these are the system fields, which will be there in any case. And then from our customer table, put this. Now, if you haven't heard about partial record, it loads for sure primary keys needed, which is the number field. Then the fields that you wanted, which is the name field, the location code field, and then a set of fields which are selected by the application. Now, I tried to think about it, and maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but it seems to to do a lookup or to do any analysis on location, you'll need some of these fields, and based on the number and name, you'll surely need the contact field and country and region field. But there's no defined pattern of why these three plus these three fields are extra selected. Just this set. But what we wanted is this. But instead of doing a select star, which means every field in the table, plus if there are any table extension on table 18, those field, it is now selecting a subset of field when you are trying to load that page. So this will drastically improve the performance of those pages which you have created for your customers. As in, this will eventually help the standard Microsoft also pages. But at the same time, you should start using partial records in your code also, so that your code is more performance optimized. Anyone interested to see a comparison of this with Business Central 18? I can just deploy it on BC 18 and see there. Yep. What. Okay.
Definitely.
So let's go back here and let me change it to, yes, I have 184. Okay. Let me publish it there. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'll have to change my app.json. This should be 18. And this should be 7. Okay. Okay, I know you guys are not required that version. Let's do that. Okay. So this should get published. It's published. Let me wait for the client to open. Okay, here it is. Just remember the password. Yes. Okay, so let's see a comparison between when we call this code from Business Central 18 versus Business Central 19. Okay. PH customers. Let's come back debugger. Here you are. Let's go back into database stats, and this is this. It already seems way off, but let's spend some time here. 9. I got what I needed. Let me do a copy all and stop the debugger. Okay. And let me paste it here. Okay. These all are gone. This is gone. This is gone. Okay. Now you should start seeing this is, I'm pretty sure, and let me keep doing the breakage as soon as it breaks the page. But you can already see that it's for sure reading all the fields from the table, irrespective of they are on the page or not. I think so. I don't think it's going to end sooner. And also, this is interesting, as I was talking about it. Here you see from the standard Microsoft table, plus there is a join on a extension, which is E1, which is extending the customer table. And then it is creating a SQL join to fetch the fields from that E1, because even if they are not part of the page, they are being fetched because of non-use of partial record. So here those fields are, there are some fields with E1, and that's what it is taking a join, even running the page where there are only 3 fields: number, name, and location. So I'm pretty sure that Microsoft have done their bit. I'd be super happy, and I don't know that does it work on report or not. It'll be super great if Microsoft can introduce it on reports and only fetch values of those fields which are added into dataset. And I don't know as in how hard or how simple that will be, but it seems relevant as it's already done on pages. If this can be done on reports, that will drastically improve the performance of those reports. Thoughts, questions? Okay. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't used partial record, go back, read about it, and start using it on your custom code also that you are writing for your customer extension. It is available from Business Central 16, if I'm not wrong, in for the code part. So Microsoft is doing their bit. You can see uses of partial record in the base application in some areas. So I would suggest you to start using it while you're coding for those extensions that you're building. Okay.
So you're saying that it's been introduced in Business Central 16 and we have not been using it?
I don't know. I'm using it, but yeah, I don't know who all is using it. But yeah, it's there from Business Central 16 for sure.
Wow.
And not just this part which I'm showing. There is a code part also. So that's why I'm saying read about it. There is a set of commands that you should be using while writing your code. A function, two kind of functions: set, load, field, and
Right.
one more. And start using it in your coding, because Microsoft is doing their bit on the application. So that'll surely help.
All right.
In the same way, like on list pages, the partial record is also working on the table relation, and it only selects those fields which are part of the lookup page that are defined on that table relation of your field. So in the same way, I don't think we need a separate demo. But if there's a customer lookup where there are only 4 fields, it'll only fetch those 4 fields when you're trying to do a lookup on a page. Okay, now I still have to identify about the SaaS part of it. As in, Microsoft have introduced how many background session you can have in an environment. It's a setting on-prem, but I'm exactly not sure what are the numbers that Microsoft have set in Business Central SaaS, to be very fair. But on your Business Central on-prem, you can actually limit how many background sessions you can have, concurrent sessions, how many can be queued, how many background session requests can be queued before they start rejecting the service start rejecting new background sessions. And then there's a default timeout for each background session and wait time. So instead of having so many commands which either are run based on your job queue entries or maybe from your APIs, that you can limit them on your environment. And it's a nice change, because there were things which, there are things where you batch certain things on background sessions and you don't understand how slow that can make your system. So now there is a way to limit it on-prem. And as I said, I'll still have to identify what are the values for Business Central SaaS or Business Central online environment. But remember that this is a setting available for background sessions in Business Central 19 and higher. Okay, now moving ahead, I guess this is last thing on service and platform. Now, I don't remember exactly, but 2 or 3 months ago, there was, after a cumulative update or a minor hotfix, and this is specifically, I guess, for SaaS, there were some problems with job queues that happened. Some didn't start, or some didn't restart it after the predefined time and all. So keeping that in mind, because job queue can have multiple reasons of failure. There can be bad code, there can be things which are not yet done, there can be overlap with upgrades, overlap with extension install process. There can be number of factors that can uh, put your job queue on kind of hold or failure. And if you have worked with the task scheduler, and that's what is used in job queues now. So when you create a task from code, and this is something which was available in NAV also, starting now 2018 and higher, you can create a task from the code. And then when you create a task, there are two sets of command that you have to, or two sets of code unit that you have to provide. One is the code unit that is running, and one is the code unit that need to run if the job fails. So what used to happen till now, till Business Central 18, that whenever a job queue, and this is specifically for job queue, but behind the scene, you can think it as a task that is created either from code or from the job queue. The failure code unit and the actual code unit were running in the same instance of Business Central or same session. Now, the change here is that Microsoft have moved the failure code unit into a different session. So even if there is a problem in this session, it automatically picks the next session and runs the failure code unit there. So that will make sure that that failure code still executes even if this session have some problems. And all this will also get logged into telemetry. So if you are using telemetry for Business Central SaaS customer, you will know the exact reason of why job queue failed. But even if it failed and you have a code unit which sends you an email in case of failure or whatever that situation is, then you can be very sure that that will run, because it will now run on a different session rather than running on the same session. So that's a change on the job queue, especially around the failures, because they were running on the same session, the failure code were sometime were not ran and things like that. Okay, so hope that clarifies that. I guess that was all on the service and platform. Now there's one thing which we partially talked about last week, which is around the trusted apps. Now let's spend some time on that. Okay. So in Business Central 19, if you haven't noticed, in your extension management, there is a new extension in the town, which is recommended apps. Now this is an extension, so let's go ahead and see what that is in our VS Code. So let me find that base app or wherever that is. Okay, I think I should have it open. No, not this one. Okay, maybe on this one. Okay, application recommended apps source. Okay, I've already discovered. So open. So let's see here. This is an extension. Now let's see what all this contains. So it's a separate extension which is okay, which have a table called recommended apps, which have a primary key of keyword. Then there is sorting order, name, publisher, and things like that. Recommended by, that's an NM. It's cool. Publisher ID and the app ID. Okay. Now this is a page to show users, I guess, the recommended apps. And view filter recommended by you. Okay, and this is card page. Okay. Then this is the enum, so that means, and it's extensible, so that means if you have to add new values to it, you can do that using enum extension. And then there are two code units. One code unit is about okay, this is talking about inserting an app. This is get app. This is update app and refresh image and delete all app. Okay. And this one is the implementation, which have some sets of code. Okay. So let's understand the idea of it is, and then we'll try to create an extension on this against this. So the idea is specifically for SaaS customers, and the idea is that when customer upgrades or implement Business Central for the first time, they get into this app world where things are available on App Source, and some of them are free, some of them are paid. And Microsoft has seen that without involving partners or without taking concerns from partner, which is not required more or less in the SaaS domain, people are installing randomly any apps which they may or may not use. Now, using the recommended app extension, what Microsoft is saying to partners is you as partner can recommend certain apps to your customer. And you can say that we as partner trust these apps and think that these are the apps that will help you in your business. It's still up to customer to choose they want to install it or not, but it's just a recommendation from the partners that you should be using these apps. So how you do that? Let's pick the app.json here so that we'll need to have a dependency on it, because this is not on the base app or not on the system app. So let me take the ID, name, publisher, and version. This is what I'll need. Okay. Let me do ALGO on when. Okay. And let's do a connect my environment so that you can download the symbols. Let's delete this file. I should have symbols. Okay. Then in your app.json, we need to specify the dependency to that recommended app extension. ID is from that extension, name, and just to keep it simple, I'll remove these zeros. So that, and if you don't know this is the minimum version that this extension is looked for in your tenant. Not the highest, the lowest version that is you're trying to browse from. So now let's try to download the symbols again, and we should get one more symbol here, which we can see here, recommended apps. Now once this is done, let's try to add some code here. Okay. Okay, so the first thing that I want to try is maybe I want to And let's see that, what was that? NM, app recommended by. Now this app recommended by just have option of your Microsoft reseller, which can be anyone. As a partner can change, and it'll always be a fixed text of your Microsoft reseller. So let's try to extend this also while we're doing this and see can we change it or not. So for that, let's add a by an extension model. And what is this? Applicant by. Okay, and let's do this based on this. Okay. Let me change the IDs here so that there are no problems later. Okay. Now here I'll have to start it on my range, which is 50,000, the custom range. Never use an ID on Microsoft range. If Microsoft uses that in future, your extension will fail. So let me give my name so that I want to recommend, or something else. If you want someone else to be recommending your company name and all, you can just have that here. Now, once this is extended, let's try to add the one of the apps that just for the demo purpose. So let's try to create a file which is SPS. Yeah. Keep it 80,000 also, and then I can do a okay. Now what we can do in this case is we can create a procedure and then we'll create it from somewhere. We'll say add apps for customer. Now here what we need to do is we will create a apps code unit, recommended apps. Now this code unit have the methods to add new app into this recommended app section. So the first thing that I'll do is, if there is anything, let me delete all those apps so that it's cleaner. Not mandatory, it's up to you. If you know that there is some data which is recommended by an ISV, let's say that these are our additional apps, then don't delete the apps from that. It's just a table. It's not getting anything not getting deleted from their environment, more or less. Now let's see the function. There is a method of insert app, and then there is a function of update app, and I'm pretty sure we are to do the insert app right now. So when you do an insert app, the parameters, the first parameter here is, and let me make it large here, is a GUID, which is the unique ID for this record. So I can surely use the create GUID to get a new ID for this record. And there is a sorting order. And for the demo, let me hard code it to 1. And it's the name. Now let's go to App Store and pick a random app. Let's see, and I might have an app listed in my buffer. Okay, now this is a free app from Insight Work, which helps you to add a SharePoint integration fact box into your documents area in your page. Now I think that's important for one of my customer because they want to store the documents that they have in SharePoint, and it gives you a nice easy way to copy your files, and then something like this. You can just drag your files and they get updated into your SharePoint. And this automatically gets added into each of the page that you have in the system if you have the attachment fact box added. And I think this is important, let's say, for this customer. So the next one is the name. So I can go ahead and where is the VS code that I have? Here it is. So now the next thing that I have to give here is the name. Yes, so insert app. Yes, name. So let's paste the name here, and this is what the user will see. The next is the publisher. Okay, let's keep it from here inside work. Okay. And let's place it here. What is next? Next is a short description, and then there is a long description. Okay. So let's try to add 2 descriptions here. Let me pull some text from here. This is easily store documents, and then let me write something. Store your documents in SharePoint. Okay. So now let's see what the next parameter is. It's recommended by NM. So I'll need the recommended by NM. Okay. Let's do a recommended by NM recommended. Now I can do a recommended by, and I have the option that I just extended the NM. So I have now my option there. And then the app source URL. Okay. So then I can go here, grab this URL and paste it here. Now this will add this app into the recommended app section in my client environment. Now what else I'll need is to have an invocation to this code. So for that, let's just quickly create a page extension.al, and let's do a page extension on 80,000, and we should add it on the recommended app list page so that user can refresh it from there if they want. Okay. And just to save time, let me add an action. I should have a notepad somewhere. Let me paste it here. I just added an action for the recommended app that we have, which is here. Okay. I'm showing it to my team, I guess. That's where this function name is like this. Okay. Customers. Okay. Now let's publish this and we'll see how it looks. Customers. So once you are on your Business Central environment, let me stop this with the debugger. Okay. Now customers can go and search for recommended apps to see what apps are being recommended by their partner. Now, as at this point there is nothing, we have added this refresh recommendation. Once I click on this, this will now show it like this to my customer, and then he can click on it. I'm pretty sure the card will open. It will give all the details, who suggested it, what they are saying about it, and then they'll also have a link to app source. By clicking on that, they can do a get it now, and that will get added to their online environment. So it's only for Business Central SaaS, not for on-prem. And this gives you a way to suggest certain list of apps which are relevant to your customer business. So that's one of the new thing that's kind of added in Business Central 19. I don't know anyone of you can think of a situation where that'll be great. And I'll be using it at least because I work in the upgrade domain. But anyone else would think that they will be able to use this? Okay. Let me do a time check. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Because yeah, what we were talking about before we joined the meeting is if you haven't used this, go ahead and give it a try. This is an extension from Jacko about the AL Object ID Ninja. I still have to configure this, but you can surely find it into your extension management, AL Object ID Ninja. I'm very sure that he made a video on his YouTube channel about how to configure it and things like that. Go ahead and watch it. And if you're using source control, where there are multiple developers working on a project, it helps you to get the next available object ID without overlapping it with the other developers who are working on the same project. So if you have 5 people working on the same project, somebody have already consumed an ID, this extension will be able to fetch the details from different repos that you have and show you what is the next ID that you can use for this customer. Give it a try if you work on a team mode for sure. If you're working alone, then then you don't need it, I guess, at that point. And this is what I saw on his account, on his Twitter account yesterday, I guess. He's expanding this, it seems, and then it seems all different environment that are being created on source control, and it gives you an idea what is the it seems the object range that is assigned. I'm hoping that's what it is, and then it giving you how much of that has been consumed. It seems pretty good.
It does have an alert if your range is expiring. So its warning message comes.
Oh, that's good. That's super cool. Yeah, I haven't configured it, but I read about it on his blog. I have seen the video. I haven't configured for myself yet, but I'll do it tomorrow for sure. Okay, anything else for today? Any other thoughts about next week? I'll have to find that Excel. Let me see what else is there. Okay, I don't see that Excel yet. Yeah. Any other topic that you think was interesting and we didn't cover it yet?
Maybe
How about
Shopify connect.
show my results?
Sorry, can you go one by one? I guess I heard two
Yeah.
people.
I was saying that show my code false is deprecated in Business Central 2021 release wave 2,
Yes.
and that has been replaced by 3 fields that you deleted when shifting to Business Central 18.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
these properties, resource exposure policy. Now,
Yep.
because in previous version, as soon as you set it to show my code false, it was not very clear what's your intention of saying show my code false.
Yeah.
Now, you might want people or developers to debug your code, but you don't want to see or download their source code, and that's okay. Like in this scenario, by default, the value is that yes, developers can debug if needed this extension, but they are not allowed to download the source code from the extension management window. So that makes the intent very clear that whatever you are writing is you know why you are setting these different properties rather than just saying show my code false.
But if you're debugging, aren't our code exposed?
Not exactly. In debugging, at an object level, you can define which method you don't want to be non-debuggable. So if I think that this code unit have this function which have all my secret sauce, then I can make that function non-debuggable, so that
Yeah,
no one can do that.
that's nice.
Right. Okay, Sam, you were saying something?
Right. Yeah, it's about Shopify. Is that connector available?
I heard the news. I'm exactly not sure.
I'm not sure. They didn't say anything about it. They said it would be available on the app source.
Yes, that's for sure. As in, I also heard about it, and that's it, I guess.
Because you say Thinks it's a company that has a connector already available on the app source. There is, actually.
There are so many companies who, I guess Archepoint also have an.
Archepoint.
Right, but yeah, it's now coming as on built-in. Let's see how that bakes in the whole product more or less.
But it's not available now.
No, because it was announced last week or yesterday, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Yesterday, not last week. Yesterday.
Yeah, so it'll take some time to kind of come as an app source offering. But people who haven't heard the news yet, it was all over Twitter and other handles. But Microsoft is building an inbuilt connector for Shopify with Business Central. Now, as I was reading someone's article, I forgot the name again. I have this bad habit.
No, it was a program manager at Microsoft, Sorange or Sora something.
Steve, can you help me with the name of person who does the other BC meetings on Meetup?
Christian?
Webinars, BC
KB?
webinars.
Christoph.
Christoph, yeah. Yeah,
okay,
Christoph.
So that's Virinars, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Christoph have a great article yesterday about both the sides of of having this feature of having an what do you call that? Let me find his article if I can. Okay, yes, and he have written a blog about it. A bomb dropped by Microsoft. Is it good or is it bad? I don't know. Now he talks about some things like other partners have spent good amount of time to build all these different connectors for Shopify. They all are available right now in App Stores. And now Microsoft have overtook it more or less because they are building it. So that will kind of, for sure, will be bad news for partners who have spent time and energy in building this Shopify connectors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But let's see what bakes in as an, I'm pretty sure the people who have spent time and have enhanced their product with this Shopify connector, if I'm not wrong, their product should be doing way more than what I'm hoping Microsoft comes up with. Not in a bad term. What I'm trying to say is the whole idea of all the tools or all the things that Microsoft bakes in is on a generic level, right? The features in the product are also not an industry focus. They are very generic, and then that gives scope to the partners to enhance that feature which came with the Microsoft. Now, I'm pretty sure the people who have built all these connectors, they have the kind of specific industries and domain and already doing more things than Microsoft will bring with this integration. And let's see what comes up. Like, I guess somewhere it was Steve, your one of your previous blog was recommended about how hard it is to add one field, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how hard that will be once the Shopify integration is part of Business Central, how hard it will be to kind of extend it. That's very important.
Yeah. I mean,
So in
anyone
fact,
who's
will
been
it?
in, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Anyone who's been in the ERP space knows that many of the quote Microsoft included features and services are often insufficient for many customers. So I personally feel there is always an opportunity for ISVs to produce much better, much more valuable solutions that people are willing to pay for.
Right. And Sandeep, you were
The
saying
positive
something?
thing, the positive thing I'm looking at is that it might standardize the way integration is done. I still see a lot of people using SOAP-based APIs or web services and things like that for integration. This will standardize the way how integration should happen. And I think Microsoft will be stopping at that point of time, and it will be generic solution. Then the partners can increase it or improve features.
Right, and at the same time, it's for sure a big integration that's coming up with Business Central. But then you think about it, there are so many now with Business Central, the scope has increased, right? Like there are so many connectors needed because there are so many other common platforms that need integrations. Like we have an what we call that Amazon integration. Now, so as these, there are different technologies available, there will be more scope. And as Sandeep was saying, so rightly, that maybe this integration with Shopify standardize how other integration should also be built in, right? And yeah, I always say this, that to do bad code, you don't need uh, so many people. It can just be done by one person. As in somebody is sticking, using the NAV framework to do integration, no one can stop them. It's just that, understanding of what's coming new and what's changing in the product is super important. So let's see what comes up when it becomes available for app stores, and will that be something that will be available on prem? I don't know, but if not, then there is a scope again for on prem customers. And Ashish, I see your hand raised. Question. And Ashish, if you are speaking, you're mute. Okay, it seems nothing. So yeah, if there is something for next week that you think is important, which we haven't covered yet, let me know either via email or on any social media handle, and I'll try to cover that next week. Otherwise, I'll just pick whatever seems interesting and things that we haven't discussed on what's new in Business Central 19. Okay, thank
Saurabh,
you
is
all.
it possible
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
that whatever you decide is published somewhere so that if we have got questions around it, we can also do our homework? It's pretty difficult sometimes
Okay.
to have the things on the top when you're discussing.
Okay, so let me select the list and I'll add it on the registration link in the blog page. On that BC open page, open discussion page on the blog, I'll just add the title there because normally I send the invite at the end of the week. So it gets hard for you to read it just at the end of the hour and understand what we'll be discussing. So what I'll do is on this page, I'll add it here on this area somewhere.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you all.
All right, thank you for everything, Brad. Much appreciated.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thanks, man.